A very good afternoon and welcome. It is 1600 hours Central African time. Let's take you live now to the IEC's Results Operations Center in Midrand, where we do understand the IEC is about to brief the nation on, of course, those special votes today. These are the live visuals from there.
Many of us must still go through. Dissociably, without much ado, let's brief the nation.
Good afternoon. The Electoral Commission reports that voting got underway in over 22,000 voting stations. The stations are open to assist those persons who have successfully applied for special votes, be they at a voting station or at an address or place of confinement at a home or in a care facility. In total, there are just over 1.6 million special votes approved. 1 million are special votes to be cast at a voting station, while 600,000 are those that will be cast at places of confinement or addresses provided by voters. As at 2 p.m., we estimate that over 230,000 special votes had been cast at voting stations. While we are happy with the turnout, we urge those voters who are yet to vote to do so for the remainder of today, as well as for special votes tomorrow. We confirm that where the list of special vote has been exhausted, there is no need to keep that station open. That station will close. Voters are also reminded that because they are approved for special vote because they are unable to physically present at the voting station, they will be visited at the address that they provided only once. If we do not find the voter, the teams will not return for a second time. Those voters, however, will be able to cast their special vote on the 29th of May at the station at which they are registered. The Commission also wishes to clarify that in an event that a voter applies for a special vote more than once, the second transaction will override the initial transaction. Similarly, if a voter applies for a special vote and subsequent to that approval applies or gives us pre-notification to vote by Section 24A, the Section 24A approval overrides the special vote that has been granted. This is so in order to honor the constitutional and lawful requirement that the voter must only vote once in an election. If you do otherwise, you open opportunities for accusations that certain persons have been able to vote more times than they are entitled. While we report a good start to the start of voting station, we must regrettably also indicate that there are areas at which we have not been able to operate. Not because of ineptness on the part of the Commission, but that withstanding all our plans, factors external to the electoral program has meant that in 107 voting stations, we have not been able to assist voters. The majority of stations are largely in the OR Tambo region, owing to the ongoing taxi strike in that area. For people who voted for special vote, they have an opportunity until 5 o'clock this afternoon to vote, and they will also have opportunities between 9 tomorrow and 1700 hours tomorrow afternoon to do so. If for whatever reason a person is unable to avail themselves of a special vote, they can come to a voting station on the 29th of May between 7 in the morning and 9 p.m. The cast special votes will not be counted today. They will only be counted with the rest of the ballots at the close of the station on the 29th of May. This is so because the same verification that applies to ordinary ballots extend to special votes. They will be reintroduced on the 29th at the stations, still in the double envelope. The first step is to verify that only persons who had been approved to vote by special vote have voted. To do so, you use the outer envelope that has the details of voters. Once we've done that verification, the outer envelope is removed and discarded, and the ballots still in their envelopes are mixed with the ballot in use at the voting station. Similarly, on the 29th of May, teams will leave the voting station and go into prisons to extend the right to vote to prisoners. They won't be counting in prisons. Once those ballots have been cast, they are transported back to the mother voting station at which the verification and counting will take place. As the 29th of May draws closer, the Commission warns voters, candidates, to be vigilant for misinformation and disinformation. There are videos in circulation that depict ballots being marked. Clearly, if you voted today or if you've seen the ballots overseas, you'll realize that those elections are not South African elections because the ballots are not comparable to the South African ballots. We wish to reiterate the last thing, that counting will happen at voting stations in the presence of party agents. No ballot will leave a station uncounted, and once we've concluded the count, party agents and representative of contestants can make a photographic image of the result that has been declared at that voting station. From then onwards, the results will be captured onto our result system, and parties will have up to the 2100 hours on Friday to raise objections that are material to the outcome of the elections. We urge all those South Africans who've been approved for special votes to use the remainder of today and tomorrow to cast their special votes at facilities at which they've been approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, DCO Shiburi. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Introduce yourself and the media house you represent. I've also opened questions for anyone following up us online media. Ballot, you'll assist when you've got such questions. We'll start from the front and then proceed forward.
Thanks, Kate. It's Natasha Piri here from SABC News. I've got a couple of questions. Just starting off with the issue in Tata. You just made it, well, you mentioned what actually happened there. We've seen the taxi strike, and a number of people have been complaining, saying that they couldn't go vote or cast their special votes today. Will we see more police actually being deployed to the area to ensure that people actually vote tomorrow and actually on election day? Because the taxi operators there that are on strike are quite adamant that they will continue with that protest. We saw a statement by the MK party, and they are now demanding answers as to why Jabulani Khumalo was actually granted access to actually come here. They've threatened legal action if you don't respond by the end of business today. Can we please have a comment on that? Also, will you be taking legal action against the MK for allegedly breaking into the warehouse of the IEC? Yeah, this is okay. Yeah, thank you.
Junior Kumalo from Newsroom Africa. DSO, you spoke about the external challenges that have made it impossible for some of the South African citizens to cast their special votes. But in some areas, including KwaZulu-Natal, at the Westridge Tennis Stadium in Durban, there were allegations that people were turned away from voting because there were no envelopes. And in some areas, there are claims that they were delayed in opening the stations because there was no ballot papers. Can you confirm this? And also, when it comes to South Africans living with disabilities, especially those that are visually impaired, can you confirm whether there is a ballot paper, a braille ballot paper that is available for them? Thank you.
This will take the after you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tsepo Ikanen from the SABC. The first question is clarity about the ballots that have been cast between today and tomorrow. Are they left by the ballot stations or they are warehoused elsewhere? The second last question is that about the foreign missions, observer teams, especially from SADC and AU, do you have any information about their arrival and activities? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Kosnati Shazi from Power FM News. I have two questions from my end. With regards to the over 100 voting stations that have been affected and have not been operating due to a number of reasons, this then begs the question, Uguti, is the democratic rights of citizens not being snatched away from them? I mean, the IEC has been calling for people to register and get involved in the election. So are the people's democratic rights to vote not being denied, whether it be net joints, the IEC, by this situation, and what is the way forward by these affected voting stations? And then secondly, a question of clarity, with special votes taking, starting today and up until tomorrow, a number of elderly voters who perhaps are not well informed about the electoral processes missed their scheduled home visits, and they had to postpone them up until tomorrow. So my last question is, people that miss the special votes on Monday, Tuesday, will they be able to perhaps vote on Wednesday? Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take the last hand and then I'm going to allow the panel to answer the questions. Okay. All right, let me pause you for the next round. All right, Kalebo. Bongi?
Thank you, Kate Bongi Wezwane from SABC. Just a quick one. There are some people who say that they were approved for the special vote applications, and then when they got to the voting stations, they were told that their names don't appear on the voters' roll. So what happens in that case?
DCO and your panel, I'm going to allow you to answer this round of questions, and then we'll take the second round before we close. We will be fine from there. Yeah.
Thanks, Kate. Let me deal with the easiest one, and I'll leave the rest to my colleagues. The ballots that are cast over special voting day will be kept in strong storage, not at the voting station. They'll be stored for the 2 nights and reintroduced at the voting stations. There is no braille ballot paper for people who are visually impaired. We, however, have what we call a universal ballot template. So a person who can read braille, the template has tactile features. We slide the normal ballot paper inside that sleeve, and for a person who can read braille, all that they need to be told is to say party X is number this, party Y is number this. That way, they are able independently, without disclosing their choice, to find the party and also make a mark without disclosing their choice. So there are orientation features on the ballot paper that we will help the people who are visually impaired to vote. So there is no braille ballot paper, but there is a template that will assist braille literate persons to vote independently. Similarly, people who do not have steady hands can also use that braille template to make a mark, and their scribble will be contained within a block of a party they wish to vote for, and that way they will not inadvertently spoil their ballots. I'll ask DCO Mosri to deal with the rest of the question, and Granville will sweep with the rest of the material related and late opening of voting stations. Kajet?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me start with the question on observers. There's 170 organizations that have been accredited to be observers in this election. 18 of them are international organizations. That includes your 2 specific organizations, which is the SADC mission, as well as the AU mission. They are already in the country. We have had an occasion to brief them, as well as to train them about our electoral process, And as far as we got indication, they are already observing the special votes processes today. So they'll continue to be in the country. I suppose being a media house, your interest is when are they likely to talk to the media? It is certainly a question we cannot respond to as the Commission. Two questions that were asked about the MK party. We respond reluctantly. You know, we can't always, when we are in these platforms, be speaking about one political party amongst the 70-odd parties that are contesting this election. One issue of Khumalo being here, the Rock is a public facility created primarily for media houses and contesting political parties. It also welcomes ordinary citizens to visit the Rock as and when. And we control that by day passes and limiting their access within the Rock on such days. For instance, we do have compliance that we need to manage with the number of persons who can be under this roof. If you arrive as an ordinary citizen and we've reached the ceiling, we would not admit you. But if there's space, we will admit you. So his presence here is in relation to that. But we will respond to the party formally as we do correspond with them. The incident in KwaZulu-Natal, the provincial electoral officer had an occasion to meet with the leadership of the party involved in KZN, and they've established their basic rules of engagement around the work that is taking place of elections. However, the incident on its own is still a matter of processing with ourselves as the Commission, as well as the police. As to whether there will be criminal charges, we will know in due course. Thank you.
Thank you. The question as it relates to envelopes and ballots, maybe first of all, just to emphasize that all voting stations have provision of ballot papers, envelopes, ballot boxes, ballot booths, stationery, etc. The isolated incidents, or the one or two that has been mentioned, where at 9 o'clock there were no envelopes or ballots, delayed the opening, and they have subsequently opened. So it was late delivery of materials to the voting stations, and voters would not have been turned away. It's just that the voting station would not have opened, and it stands to reason that we can't open a voting station if there are no ballots, and in this case as well with envelopes to observe the double envelope system. But those stations did eventually open. Then there was another question about a voter whose name did not appear on the voter's roll. I think maybe just to correct the statement, for today and tomorrow, the only people that can vote are those who have been approved, who have applied for a special vote, and who have been approved. So they will be on the list. But as Mr. Shiburi mentioned, where you also have multiple applications, we have safeguards built into the application process so that if someone had applied for a special vote, but then subsequently also applied for a Section 24A, meaning to vote on voting day at a different voting station, then that would override and wipe his or her application. So whilst it is possible that in the allegation the person did apply, it is also possible, however, that there was a subsequent application which overrode that specific application. Is that it? That's it. Thanks.
The matter related to the denial of rights of voters in Umtata and in voting stations where we have not been able to operate. The national joints are dealing with the matter. We will at the future briefing be able to indicate what the status is, but on our part, we will do everything humanly possible to extend the right to those people without placing at risk our own staff. So we will continue to work with the national joints to see whether circumstances permit that stations open tomorrow. Yeah.
There's a question from our online platform. If I may request Ballot to read it out for us, please.
I believe the questions were answered.
Yeah, they covered.
Yes, they're
okay,
covered.
I'm happy if they were. I've got two hands. Ndate, do I still owe you? Okay, beautiful. I'm going to take your hand and followed by the gentleman behind you. Right there,
Good afternoon. I just have questions from my colleagues. Basically, there was apparently an old age home in Soweto where I think, which is unattended to. So basically, it's a voting station where I think there are old age home people and it's unattended to. So obviously, I'm just going to get the details so that I just don't ask you for something that you may not be aware about. I'm just, because my colleagues have indicated that to me. And the other question would be, there were some protests, I think some violent protests at Orange Farm. So how much have that affected the voting in that area, or you've got it under control? Thanks.
Brian Sokuta from The Citizen. Taking into account that the IEC has for several years in the past conducted elections without much hindrance, would you describe the current challenges as unprecedented?
That's it.
Okay. I don't see any other hands. I'm going to allow the team from IEC to respond before we wrap up. We've got two. Tatisha Buri and Tim.
Thanks. I think let's put in the figures so that we get better perspective to evaluate the reported challenges. There are 1.6 million approved special votes at over 22,600 voting stations. We've never been in that territory hitherto. And in any case, however unfortunate the reports are, the reports of difficulties are insignificant in the greater scheme of the challenge that we have to undertake. They represent less than 0.1 of a percentage. But our view is that we should assist every voter who has made the time to apply for the special vote. So the challenges are not comparable to the number of voting stations that are open. The operation in Orange Farm, yes, we have reports, but the confirmation from our provincial office is that they've not impacted on our ability to manage special votes. I'd appreciate the details of the old age home so that we respond factually. And also we must be careful that whether because there's an old age home doesn't mean it will open, because people may have decided they don't want to vote by special vote. They want to be part of the festivities on voting day and join the queue like everyone else. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you very much, executives. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep in touch. Elections are underway. See you soon. Cheers and goodbye.